Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we break down the latest and greatest World Cup action. We don't have a lot of greatest for you in this particular episode, but we are going to do our best to unpick what just happened with Ghana and Uruguay. This was of course a rematch of the infamous 2010 quarter-final, but Ghana weren't able to exact their revenge, losing 2-0. We're also going to touch upon South Korea and Portugal, which saw some late drama. But first, we say goodbye to two really dull, boring sides, which I am glad about following that 90, if you can't tell. The fact it was a bit dull, not hugely surprising, guys, because prior to kick-off, Uruguay were the only side yet to score in the competition. They did get their goals, but they didn't get the results. Let's lead the charge with Ghana then, Henry. Did you expect a little bit more from them coming into this game, because they only needed a draw to qualify, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should say Ghana are the lowest ranked team at this World Cup. Not that I think they, personnel-wise, deserve that status. There are a lot worse teams than them. But yes, they had a draw against their bitter rivals, as you kind of pointed out at the start, and they had an amazing opportunity to take the lead. Missed a penalty again. I think it's a cursed moment for the Ghana national football side. But yeah, I mean, that's just really bad penalty from Andre Ayew. I think he's going to be part of the circulation out of this side moving forward. I mean, it was a positive World Cup in the sense that they got that win against South Korea in a really exciting game, wasn't it? And they've blooded in a few players recently. We've seen Lamptey sort of get roped into the side. Inaki Williams has recently come into the side. So I think they've got a little bit to build on in a few years' time. But yeah, in this game, one they really had to take and go for. They got outshot 10-12. I mean, it was crazy at the end, wasn't it? It was like a basketball match. Just sort of, they weren't quite sure what they were going for in the end. And some of their defensive players I thought were really poor in this match too. Salisu, we saw that the opening goal, that was two mistakes where they've missed the ball coming across, and then Amati's just got away with sort of like a last-ditch tackle at one point. Salisu may be guilty for not closing down the Suarez flick early on, the Arrascaeta second goal. So yeah, disappointing in terms of what their tactics exactly were in this game. They looked a bit outfought by a team which you've alluded to haven't really done anything in this tournament whatsoever. The one bright light though, I will say, is Kudus, Mohamed Kudus. He's looked really sharp, hasn't he?
What a player.
Really promising. 22-year-old, came through the Right to Dream Academy in Accra in Ghana. It's produced a lot of good players at the moment. Sulemana, who we didn't see lots of this tournament, but he's a really exciting proposition.
Little cameo in this game.
Yeah, I thought he looked good when he came on, but it was very stretched at that moment in time. But yeah, 5 goals and 5 starts for Ajax this season. He's top for shots per game, 2.5, top for dribbles too, 2.5. And you can see that in the eye test too. He's really taking players on, creates a lot, was epic in that game against South Korea. And he looked like the guy that was going to make something happen in this game again today. He's got 7 goals and 20 caps for Ghana. Really just one to watch out for, because he's going to excel at Ajax for a bit, and then he'll probably get an amazing move somewhere. So yeah, that's the one bright light that Ghana can take away from this. But they'll probably just be happy to have dragged down Uruguay with and out of the tournament.
The Ghana fans cheering every time a crying Luis Suarez appeared on the big screen, which I really can get on board with. Top form from the Ghanaians. And I think Kudus' value post this World Cup is going to shoot through the roof, isn't it? Ajax, the real winners in this situation. Now, you made an observation, Pat, prior to kick-off about Uruguay having a lack of attacking presence in central areas, and we saw Arrascaeta shine in this 90, didn't we?
Yeah, well, if you look at their heat maps from their 2 previous games, there was this enormous kind of blank area right in front of the penalty area. So they would get the ball forward, but the ball would kind of come forward from the deep midfielders and to strikers dropping deep. But it meant that they were never really stretching the back line and producing that space for somebody to take up possession. Well, in this game, Arrascaeta came in, and suddenly you had that extra body in the box. That's actually how the first goal came about, right? Because Suarez has a shot, and somebody was in the position to follow in. Before this, really their main shot taker has been Valverde. Their main creator has been Valverde from deep midfield, which isn't really what you want. So having Arrascaeta there, who is able to kind of push on, be that extra man running in from midfield, made them incredibly dangerous, and he managed to find space for both goals in this game, as well as creating 2 chances. They had 3 big chances in this match to Ghana's 1. So it did feel like that actually did start to stitch together some of these disparate areas of quality in the squad that we knew were there, but weren't quite connecting properly before the game. I mean, in the end, it was too little too late. But the performance in the game, is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that they were so bad up to this point and so toothless kind of shockingly, given the attacking talent in the side. You know, okay, Cavani and Suarez are old, but they're not old and useless. They're old and they've still got ability. Nunez has been playing his way into form, and despite his chaotic tendencies, his ability to find space in the box has generally been good. Yet 1 shot in this game, 5 shots overall in this competition, which is horrible. It's just, they've been really, really disappointing. And look, we can criticise Valverde or something, but ultimately, a central midfielder quite rarely is going to win you enough games to get out of a group by himself. I think this is a team-wide failure. And I think actually, as much as you want to take Cavani and Suarez and Godin and Cáceres and all the kind of guys who've been part of this generation of Uruguayan football to the World Cup, ultimately at a certain point you need to say goodbye. And I think that time is coming. Whereas you look at Ghana and you think, wow, Ghana are maybe one cycle away from something special because Kudus is 22, you've got Suleimanov, you've got Isahaku who came on for 1 minute at the end, who's 18 years old, you've got Lamptey, Salisu. You know, there's so much talent there just coming through, and it's a little bit early for them. For Uruguay, it all feels too late.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that Bentancur had to come off in this game early doors, right after 34 minutes. Vecino came on. Vecino was fine in possession, tidy, tight, progressed the ball nicely, but they did lose a little bit forward thrust in there. But Arrascaeta picking up the pieces. Before we move on to who else has disappointed us in this tournament, just to tap into a theme you just pertained to, let's revisit the South Korea fixture, Henry. Break down some of the key talking points for us there, otherwise this episode's going to be 5 minutes long.
Well, I mean, to give some context to why Ghana and Uruguay have gone out, it's because South Korea pulled off like a mini miracle, I think you can say. They've gone and beat Portugal, which is pretty remarkable in itself. Portugal looked quite good throughout this tournament, I thought, and it wasn't looking good for them. They had to beat Portugal and hope that Uruguay wouldn't sort of get a far superior goal difference. And 5 minutes in, they're 1-0 down to a Ricardo Horta goal, and then obviously Uruguay take that 2-0 lead. So you're suddenly thinking this isn't going to go well. I've seen Kim get an equaliser just before half time, and then in the dying moments of the second half, an amazing breakaway from South Korea from Son. And then actually one of the best passes you'll see at this tournament, just to definitely release Hwang Hee-chan for that finish, who hasn't had an easy time at club level, has he? He's not really impressed too much since he came to the Premier League. But yeah, great to see him.
He must be smashing the gym though, because his abs when he took his top off were
good.
Absolutely to die for.
But yeah, no, it was great. And actually, we've enjoyed South Korea this tournament. I mean, they haven't had tons of possession, but I mean, obviously in this game they only had 33% in the second half, and yet still managed to outshoot Portugal. I mean, there is sort of a theory that if you don't have the ball, then there's less mistakes you're going to make with it. And I think a lot of the smaller teams have been trying to adopt that throughout this tournament. They're just trying to be compact, catch teams on the break, and South Korea did that tons in this match once again. But yeah, they've been positive throughout the whole tournament. They took 13 shots against Portugal, 22 against Ghana, and then 7 against 22 against Ghana, and 7 against Uruguay. They're 28th in the world. Over half of their squad at the tournament plays in their domestic league. So I really respect them coming out and giving it a go. And it's been an amazing tournament for the Asian sides, I think. I mean, Iran gave a pretty good account of themselves, and certainly the latter 2 games. Australia through, Japan through, now South Korea as well. So yeah, it's positive for them and good for South Korea. And you saw how much it meant to them at the end to achieve what they've done. Because yeah, I mean, Portugal, well, still a force.
Lovely. And until Son teed up Hwang with that delightful pass, he was on my disappointed shortlist. And that's just an extension of his Tottenham form, really. It's been uncharacteristic from him, hasn't it, how poor he's been at the start of this season. But let's open up the list then and move on to some other names. I mean, you've spoke about KDB in previous episodes or previous shoots. We shot a Sunday Vibes earlier, a little teaser for you there. Should we start there? I mean, other names on the list, we have Denmark strikers down. Henry, you put Mexico on there. But I think maybe let's start with Belgium then, because they have crashed out in maybe the most dramatic fashion, as well as Germany, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, and they should have had the talent to be better than they were, but at the same time, you know, this squad is kind of past it. Don't start Vertonghen and Alderweireld and expect it to work out. Don't start Axel Witsel in midfield when he hasn't been good for 3 years, you know. Don't put Eden Hazard on when it kind of stops your team being able to press properly because they're carrying a guy who can't really run at this point. I mean, it just seems like nothing was really lined up properly in that team. And to me, that has kind of been the story of Roberto Martinez's time in charge there. There were points when their talent was so overwhelming that it didn't really matter that he was doing kind of cavalier stuff at the back. On this particular occasion, with these players now reaching the end of their span as top-class professionals, you can't just rely on weight of talent to overcome good teams in this tournament, because actually there have been very few teams in this tournament which do not have either one or two very dangerous players or a really good tactical plan. Pretty much everybody has at least one of those things, I would argue. You know, looking at the way, like we're just talking about South Korea, the fact that they beat Portugal playing on the break in this game, whereas against Ghana they executed a high press and put up a big shot performance. You know, just having that ability to flip the switch between different styles of play. And we've seen it from other sides as well. Morocco, we've seen it from Saudi Arabia even. I was disappointed individually by De Bruyne, because he was the guy who you would hope would push them on. He was the guy who you would expect to get them a kind of clutch goal or assist, and ended up with nothing. He did create some chances in the tournament, but I thought he was pretty wasteful in possession. His pass accuracy way down on what it normally is, getting dispossessed way more than he normally does. That's really disappointing from my point of view. And as much as the system wasn't set up for him to succeed, we've seen De Bruyne pull teams out of a mess before, and in this tournament he proved completely incapable of it.
Yeah, and we open up on that even further on Sunday Vibes, so stay tuned for that. Might be coming Saturday, ironically. Henry, Mexico?
I think it's a real shame that it took until that Saudi Arabia game to actually see them try and unleash and take it to an attack in an attacking sense. I mean, Morocco's an interesting point. Like, En-Nesyri's not been great going into this World Cup, and yet they've still managed to get a tune out of him in this tournament. And teams like Denmark and Mexico seem to be sort of weighed down by the idea that they didn't have an attacking threat going forward. I mean, one of Mexico's goals was, a 35-yard free kick, which you can't be relying on at all. But yeah, I'm not surprised Martino has dropped out, has already sort of retired as coach, because they just looked really toothless. I don't blame him a little bit. I said this the other day. What's he meant to do with the players at his disposal? But at the same time, there are other teams in this tournament that are lacking a forward, but have managed, as kind of what Pat was saying, to work around it, to sort of figure out a different plan, to maximise your potential. But if you're just, some of the defence-first tactics that we've seen in this tournament have been really disappointing. Just so much space between the midfield and the attackers, just players left isolated, and I think Mexico have been really guilty of that. I mean, bear in mind, they've got through to the, last 16, 7 tournaments in a row prior to this, and so that's a really, for a team of Mexico status, this is really, really poor. But yeah, Denmark too. I mean, everyone's saying, the Turkey of this World Cup. Yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit sorry for them. I thought they actually looked pretty decent against France, but yeah, that final game, that's a massive disappointment against Australia. To not be able to find a goal, Skov Olsen, etc., not good enough.
Yes, I think the only goal they did register was Christensen, right? And I think against France they may have tried 3 strikers in one game: Braithwaite, Dolberg, Cornelius. They were really struggling to make things happen in the final third, and it was such a shame because they're in such fine fettle coming into the tournament. Obviously humbled France twice in their Nations League group. So yeah, very much this year's Turkey.
Just odd, because in the Nations League group they were solid in qualifiers. They scored tons of goals. I think they scored about 30.
They scored 30 in the qualifiers.
Yeah, and then I appreciate that some of the teams are up against far lesser standard, but
I think it's still like Mailer was their top goal scorer.
Marlon and Skov Olsen both had 5.
He's been so clueless that Hallman having to constantly change that forward line. 3 different games, I think they started with three different lineups in attack to got to this point and not knowing at least who he's going to get the best out of. That is really bizarre for me. I think they'll be fine. They'll go again, but yeah, they've been really weighed down by too much expectation.
Yeah, I think 3 solid answers. We've got KDB's lack of star power, Denmark underwhelming, and Mexico not making the last 16, which is, a hallmark of every great World Cup. Yeah. Really disappointing. But who are you? Who have you been most disappointed with, back home? Let me know in the comments below and we'll hit you up in the first hour. Like this video and subscribe to the channel with notifications on, and stay tuned for another upload later on Euro Football Daily.